Your girl HP is on her mark, so get set ready.
On your mark, set, go.
Oh yeah, make we chat about it. What the fastest? Make we chat about it. Or on left, make we chat about it. Check and feel at the topic. Oh, make we chat about it. Latest news, make we chat about it. All your views, make we chat about it.
Track and teach us for set. With your girl HP.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. It is another Thursday, and of course, it is about track and field, everything track and field. Vivine Morano, welcome. You are early, early, early. Welcome, each and everyone, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to another episode of Track. Welcome to another episode of HP Chat Track. And this evening with me is an outstanding Olympian, four-time Olympian. And of course, we have to feature the Olympians because it is an Olympic year. It is an Olympic year, of course, Team Jamaica. Well, we're expecting Team Jamaica to do well, but with me tonight is none other than Kathy Rattray. Help me welcome the outstanding, the brilliant Miss Kathy Rattray. Kathy, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Okay, we are going to get right into it because already they are loading up the chat. Welcome, Venice Brown, Vivine Morano, another Olympian. Welcome, each and everyone. Kathy, tell me a little bit about you as a little girl before you became this superstar.
Oh,
Tell
wow.
me who was Kathy as a little girl going to prep school, basic school, prep school, primary school, the parish you're from, just a little bit about your childhood.
Okay, well, I am from Kingston. I grew up right across from where the Bob Marley Museum is. I went to prep school. I went to a prep school called Williams Prep. It was on Ruthven Road. It doesn't exist anymore. And me and my cousins, my sister, um, some people who I'm still good friends with, all went to Williams Prep. I think I had a wonderful childhood. I enjoyed my childhood. And when I had to move to the United States, my father was the ambassador from Jamaica to the United States. So between 1975 and 1980, I had to move to the United States. And I missed Jamaica so much.
Wow, we're going to get into that for sure. But were you interested in sport at the prep school level?
Yes, we always had our sports day, and I always participated in sports day, but it wasn't really a big thing for me. And I went to Excelsior High for 1 year. That was before we moved away. And I didn't join the track team because they used to tease me during PE and said that my leg them some maga and then you break my little maga foot. So I absolutely refused to be
So
on the
you were
track.
traumatized.
I was. So I did not join the track team at Excelsior. I stayed far away from it and kept my little maga legs covered up.
So Excelsior can claim Kathy Rattray. They can claim you with people like Dr. Arthur Wint, Sanjay Eyre, Debbie Byfield, Dr. Gregory Horton, Neville Moyton, Andrea Bruce, and a lot of others. But let me ask you something. What was it like what was it like in high school in a foreign country, and when you compare it to Excelsior in Jamaica? What was the environment like? How different was it?
Well, it really was a culture shock for me. Um, the neighborhood that we lived in it was in Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., was a very affluent neighborhood. So to begin with, there were very few black children there to begin with. So that was a bit of a culture shock. The whole accent, the way that they spoke. I was afraid that, as a teenager, you don't want to be the odd one out. So it was a bit of an adjustment for me. However, I had to do PE, and I happened to have a black PE teacher who encouraged me, and it was something I wanted to do because I didn't have any friends, I didn't know anybody. I was in eighth grade, which is the second year of junior high, so students already had friends. So it was difficult for me. So it was through this PE teacher who recognized that I had a talent and encouraged me to join the track team. And that's really how I got started in track and field.
And then you start showing your skinny legs again.
Nobody teased me over there. Nobody teased me, so I was free to show my little marble legs, and uh, I would win everything. So it was wonderful. I,
But
I
what was
enjoyed
life
I enjoyed it.
what what was life like though for you as the daughter of a diplomat? What was that like? Tell me a little bit about that life.
Well, my parents were very, very down to earth, and my father and mother enjoyed entertaining Jamaicans while we were in Washington. Even though a lot of his work had to do with Americans and other diplomats, he opened up our house to Jamaicans. So I was always surrounded by Jamaicans while I was over there. We didn't return to Jamaica too often, um, but always kept those Jamaican roots. My mother made sure that we were eating Jamaican meals. So I didn't feel too isolated. So it was really a good experience. My sister and I decided that we wanted to see the true American experience. So we wanted to go to a public school so that we could have the true American experience. And I didn't really like school over there because, as I said before, I really miss Jamaica. I just liked being in Jamaica, and I miss my friends in Jamaica. So I tried to graduate early. In fact, I did graduate early because I wanted to be out of high school.
So while you were abroad, in high school, winning everything, were you aware that back in Jamaica there was a track and field high school championship for girls?
Oh yes, so I knew about girls champs because
Hmm.
I went to Excelsior for that 1 year. So of course I attended, and that would have been in 73, 74, and Excelsior was doing well at that time. So yes, I went to champs and I knew all about girls champs. Uh, but I didn't really keep up. I wasn't really into track and field that much. I did like it because I had some success, but I wasn't really into it. So my father, who was my biggest fan, he was the one that was into it. He realized that I had a talent, and so he kept up with it. He's the one that encouraged me to go to Jamaica to try out for the Olympic team because I had no idea. I was just doing it, winning my little races, having a good time. I didn't think that I was good enough to be on an Olympic team. That never even entered my head.
But
So
Kathy, you were doing big things in college at the University of Tennessee, where we're going to segue to now. You were
no,
doing big
no.
things
But before I made my first Olympic team the year I graduated from high school. Before
at
I
age
went to
17.
Tennessee at age 16, before I went to Tennessee. I think I turned 17 that year, but I competed the Olympics when I was 16. So he decided that he was going to send me home to compete in the Olympic trials. I knew nothing about these things. I had never competed outside of my high school events, no club events or anything like that. Um, it was good and bad because I was nervous because you get nervous before races, but I didn't know anything about anybody. I didn't know who I'd be racing about. I knew nothing.
And before we get to the trials, let us talk about college and the NCAA circuit. What was that transition like for you coming out of high school so young and now stepping up a little bit where academics and sport are equally demanding? What was the transition like for you?
Well, I think having been in the U.S. For 4 years of high school or 5 years of high school, I think that kind of prepared me. It was not really a difficult transition for me, as I said, because I had already been in the United States. Um, University of Tennessee was one of the best decisions that I ever made. We had a ready-made family. They did everything that they could do to support their athletes, and so that helped to make the transition even easier. And on top of it, the year that I went in, we also had several really, really good athletes who made U.S. Olympic teams as well. So in addition to the support, we also had some really, really great girls on our team. And, even we just had a reunion um, late last year. So it really was not that difficult. And, a lot of times I will say to these younger athletes or to their parents when they're choosing schools to go to, that if you choose a school where you are the star, then you are going to do all the work. They're going to work you, work you, work you. So I was fortunate that I had many stars on my team. So I was never overworked. And the coach encouraged us so that we would make national teams so that we could compete internationally because, it only made the university look better. So that was my
In,
experience.
Indeed. I love to ask this question: balancing academics and sport, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and more. What was your strategy? What was your system in order to be successful at both?
Um, I struggled a little bit with some of the classes, but as I said before, the school I went to, they gave us a lot of support. So if you were struggling with something, they were able to bring in tutors to help you. But I found that the semesters when I had the most classes, the most difficult classes, I did the best, because you just have to be very strategic, and you have to focus, and you have to want it. So I wanted to do well on the track, and in order to do well on the track, I had to do well in class. You had to have a certain GPA, so you had to be focused. There was no time for doing anything else. It was study and it was track. But it was good because, as I said, I had good teammates. I had a good relationship with my teammates. I had a good relationship with my coach. So all those things put together help to make the experience better. Students, when they're choosing where to go to school, they have to consider all of those things,
Consider all the variables.
all the variables.
A little birdie told me, or some birdies told me, that you are very smart, very talented. Which of your academic success did you enjoy the most? Which of the journeys you enjoyed the most?
You mean journey, the high school journey or
As
college?
in, as in your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, and where you are now. Tell us a little bit about that PhD level that you're at now.
Okay, so as you know, I got my bachelor's from the University of Tennessee. I did a master's through Southeastern University. They came to Jamaica and did it. I didn't actually go to Florida. Um, I really, really enjoyed that journey because it taught me so much about the world of education. My undergraduate degree, I majored in Spanish, and I just did education because I thought, well, what am I going to do with a degree in Spanish? But my master's is in education, so I really got into the field of education. I wanted to be a businesswoman. I wanted to do business, but I was more into the arts. And so I decided that's why I changed to Spanish. I have a minor in business, but I love being a teacher. I love being in the
Wha-
field of education. And so that master's degree really opened up my eyes to the world of education. I'm currently working on a PhD in curriculum and instruction. And I too am enjoying that journey because I'm seeing so many other facets of education that I would like to explore.
Kathy,
So
nobody enjoys school so much.
I don't. I mean, I complain to my husband about the coursework sometimes, but I'm enjoying the journey. I've learned a lot. I really have learned a lot, and
Inter
so there's a lot more that I would like to do, and I think Jamaica can benefit from some of the things that I'm thinking about that I would like to do.
Indeed, I love it. I don't know what it is, but I love it. From you say Jamaica, I love it. I love it. Let us talk a little bit about the Olympics, your professional career, and the Olympic Games and more. You competed in an era where the money was not as big as now. Some of the contracts that we're hearing about now, especially at the high school level, is crazy. What was the motivation for you that led to 4 Olympic Games without knowing that you're not really earning? What was the influence? What was the motivation?
Well, when I first went to University of Tennessee, I was like, I don't really like running that much. I'm just gonna do it for my 4 years so I can have my scholarship and get through school. But the more you get into it, the more you enjoy the sport, and you just want to do well. You want to do well. Also, being from Jamaica, when you go to meets, everybody wants to be a part. Everybody wants a little part of Jamaica. It was
Yeah.
wonderful being on the Jamaican team. So I wanted to do well. I wanted to be able to go out and run for my country, but I also wanted to do well for me. Intrinsically motivated because it just felt good going out there and competing for your country. And so that was my motivation. um,
Wow.
Money didn't really play a big part in it because there wasn't that much money. So the real money was at the top, and only a few people can be at the very top. So there was not a lot of money involved. So I was not doing it for the money, but it was tough going sometimes, especially after I finished college and I moved back to Jamaica. At that time, I was the only Jamaican that was making national teams that was actually training in Jamaica. Everybody was away in college, or if they'd finished college, they were still training abroad.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was very difficult. You had to want to do it. Um, my son took up track when he was in college, and he would be like, how did you do? When you see people running on the track on TV, it seems so easy. You don't know all the work that went into it. Um, and so I said to him, you have to want to do it. He says, you all make it look so easy, but this is hard. So it really was hard. And it was hard training in Jamaica, being the only one training in Jamaica. Um,
Which club were you with? Who was your coach back in Jamaica at that time?
so, right. So when I moved back to Jamaica, Mr. Glenn Mills was my coach. I was the only female that he was coaching at the time. And so I trained with the Camperdown boys because that was all there was. And Mr. Mills did a fabulous job in 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 getting me ready and doing my background work. But there were difficulties in really getting me race sharp. So I struggled with that for many years. Um, and I struggled being the only one in Jamaica. I felt like I was not being encouraged. I say all the time that these athletes that train in Jamaica don't realize how lucky they are, how fortunate they are, because I had to work. I worked full time. I was a teacher, and I would get up very, very early in the mornings to do my training, and then go and work all day. So it was very difficult. And as I said, even when I went abroad to race, I was not making that much money. I would get money for the races, but it wasn't nothing. Certainly nothing I could live off of. So I had to work, and it was very difficult. But as I said, I was motivated. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for me. I wanted to be successful for me.
Wow. Working full time and training full time and making Olympic teams. You're awesome. Before we continue, just want to say hello to some people on the live there. There's Olympian Etlin Tate there, Olympian Vivian Morana, as I said before. Welcome, Tyreek Fuller, Marlene Green. Marlene Green said, "Thanks, Kathy, for representing the black, green, and gold."
Always
Okay,
proud to represent Jamaica. Always.
moving right along with another question, a big question. Trials, the Jamaican trials. I hear that our trials is one of the toughest competition for Jamaicans, especially in an Olympic year or World Championship year. What kind of mindset you had to put on in order to come to the national championship and be competitive?
Well, when I was in college, it was a little bit easier because you were in the zone, and so you were ready to compete. You just come off of 2 seasons, indoor and outdoor seasons, competing very high competition. So it was a little bit easier then. But once I moved back to Jamaica and I didn't have as much competition, it really, really became difficult. And so the my other competitors, they were in the United States, they were on the circuit or in college, and so they were sharper than I was. And so it was very, very challenging, very challenging. And you just have to motivate yourself and try and do what you can do.
And
Uh,
do what the coach says, right?
and do what your coach says. Do what your coach says. Yes.
Do you can you recall your emotions when you realize that you've made your first Olympic team? As in Jamaica, you would have been a schoolgirl. Maybe you would have been a schoolgirl at age 16, but making an Olympic team as a teenager is a big deal. Can you recall your emotions when you realize that you're on that team?
I mean, I was very shocked. I was so surprised. Like I said, I never even thought that I would be even going to an Olympic trials, much more making the team. And I remember that I didn't know anybody because I didn't compete in boys and girls champs. I never went to Carifta. I knew no one. And everything was very strange. I'd never run at the stadium before.
Wow.
Um, so I was quite nervous, but I came fourth in the 400, and they did a very strange thing after. They made us run a relay, like they put together two relay teams. I don't know what that was about. And I remember somebody saying to me, "Yes, you're going to be running against Jackie Pusey," and I was like, I didn't even know who Jackie Pusey was at the time. So, it was very strange. Um, but I was very, very surprised, and very elated. And I remember in preparing for it, because our track and field season back in high school had finished. And when I told the coach that my father was sending me home, all my teammates came out and would train with me for no reason of their own, just to train with me so that I could be ready to go to Jamaica to make the Olympic team.
Who was
So,
one of the first person that you would have formed a friendship with on the team?
Well,
Can you recall?
of course, my roommate and still very good friend was Juliet Cuthbert. And
Okay.
so she definitely was my first friend. We were both young, the youngest people on the team. And the other people, like Ruth Simpson and Dorothy Scott, Lilith Hodges, they didn't have time for Juliet and I because we were just little children.
You
And
guys were
so
the babies.
we were the babies. And so Vilma Charlton was the chaperone. So she kind of looked out for Juliet and I. But Juliet and I we stuck together. We stuck together. And we have remained friends to this day.
The babies on the team.
Ladies on the team.
How early did you have your Olympic dream? When did you say, I think I want to go to the Olympics? Or is it that is something that just happened along the way?
Right. So it's something. My first Olympics, I had no idea. It's not something that I had really thought
You
about
had
until
no
my father
thoughts
said,
hearing about the Olympics?
I just didn't think that I was that good. I didn't in high school. I just didn't think that I was that good. Um, but when my father put it to me, I took it seriously, and I was like, well, yes. And I went out there, and I wanted to make the team. But then after that, um, there was more motivation to make the other teams. I realized, I can do this. This is something I want to do. And I had only made the team as a relay runner. So I wanted to make the team the next time. I wanted to be able to run the individual 400 meters.
What
So,
did your coach say to you, Mr. Glenn Mills, when he realized that you made the team and you're going to run? What was some of the
well,
encouraging words?
he didn't start coaching me until after
Okay.
college. So I had a very complicated situation because I spent I wasn't really training in Jamaica until after I came back from college. So my years in college, my college coach was the one that directed me. When I
Okay.
came over to Jamaica for the summers, I would follow the program that they gave me. And then Mr. Herb McKinley was the one who helped me out while I was training. So I can't say enough about Herb McKinley. People talk about how great Mr. McKinley was
Yes.
on all the
Yes.
fantastic things that he did.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, I think that Mr. McKinley did more for Jamaica off the track than he did on the track. He motivated
Yeah.
so many athletes, and he was my champion. He came and picked me up every morning at 7 o'clock to take me to the track to train. And he was just fabulous. And I think without him, I probably would not have made subsequent teams. Maybe I would have just gone by the wayside. But he really was a big motivator and made sure that I was out there on the track. um, they had a World Cup. The World Cup was made up of the different continents, and so we had to compete to be on the Americas team. And he wanted to make sure that I was going to make that team. I think he wanted
Wow.
me to make the team more than I wanted to make the team. He had me out
Wow.
there. He wanted me to make that team. So Mr. McKinley definitely played a big role in my early development.
That story sounds familiar. I've heard that story about Mr. McKinley so many times. It almost sounds like Ruth Williams Simpson's story. Olympian Ruth, welcome. She's saying, "Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. Do you remember what we call you?" But we're going to get to the nickname. Don't tell me yet. Don't tell me yet because I'm going to ask about the nickname. Distance running, welcome, welcome each and everyone. My next question to you: 1980 Olympic came, Russia, Moscow, Russia. You line up on that track for the first time. When the starter says, on your mark, What was going through your mind?
Well, remember, as running the relay, I don't even remember what
Right?
race I ran on the relay, but I
Right?
remember I was so nervous. I mean, this was maybe my third time in an international competition because we had some meets that we competed in leading up to the Olympic Games. And I was just talking nonstop in the tunnel leading up to the till I think they just got mad at me, Ruth and them, and they were like, "You need to shut up." So I was a nervous
Nerves.
wreck. I remember nothing about the race, nothing. I was so nervous, but I went out there, I ran. We didn't make the next round, but I was grateful for the experience. I was really grateful for that experience. But
Wow.
I was very it was very
But
scary.
it got easier. It got easier as you get to number two, number three, right?
I don't think I've ever run a race and not been nervous. Even if I think I can win it going out, so many things can happen. So you always get nervous. But I think that was the most nervous that I have been because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know it was like this big, huge stadium. It was, it was a lot, and you're at the Olympics. It was very scary.
Track and field, the biggest stage.
Yes, yes.
Vivian is saying Mr. Herb McKinley was influential in her getting a scholarship to the University of Montana. Wow, what a gentleman he was.
He definitely. I mean, like I said, he helped so many
So
athletes. I
many.
mean, he already had his whole um, team of athletes at Calabar, but he was able to help athletes, outside of that. Um, we always wanted Mr. McKinley on the team because he was the biggest motivator. He was the only one that could talk to us. Most of the other officials that went to the team with the teams, they never competed. They didn't know. They didn't understand like Mr. McKinley understood. So it was
Wow.
wonderful. We didn't need him to be the team manager or anything. He just needed to come as Mr. Motivator.
Wow. Beautiful. We're in an Olympic year. As a retired athlete, you've done it 4 times. My, that's huge. What are your emotions like right now, knowing that it is an Olympic year? Is there any emotions that are rushing back at you?
Oh, definitely. And every time I watch a World Championships or an Olympic Games, um, I get nervous all over again, especially for the 400, which was my race.
Mm-hmm.
I always get nervous and excited, and even worse if a Jamaican is in it and makes it to the finals. That I'm screaming at the TV, and then sometimes when I watch them, I'm like, did I really do that? Did I can't believe that I did that. So there are a lot of emotions that you go through, and I was very privileged that I was able to accompany some teams after I retired, um,
Beautiful.
junior teams, um, as well as a world championship team. So that was also very exciting, and to be able to share with some of those athletes, some of my experiences, and hope that I could motivate them the way that Mr. McKinley was able to motivate me.
Giving back. Let us talk about some of your achievements. I love to do this part because many times athletes, you guys just compete and, not take a serious look or a close look at your achievement. Academics, bachelor's degree, master's degree, heading towards your PhD. 4-time Olympian, 1980, 1984, 1988, 1992. Two world championships, 1983, 1987. World indoor champion, 1993. Commonwealth Games silver medalist, 1982. CAC champion, 1980, 1981 as a junior. CAC senior champion, 1991. CAC silver medalist, 1987. 1991. CAC senior champion, 1991. CAC senior champion, 1992. CAC senior champion, 1993. CAC senior champion, 1994. 1995. 1996. 1997. 1998. 1999. 1997. CAC silver medalist, 1999. CAC senior champion, 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 1999. CAC seni Pan Am Games bronze medalists 1980, 1987, 1991. Listen to this now, people. Correct me if this is not true. You won 17 All American honors. Is that true?
Yes, at the end through the
At the
NCAA.
NC, yes. Let me say it again. People, listen to this. Kathy Rattray won 17 All American honors while competing for the University of Tennessee. Multiple pen relay watches. What a legacy. What a legacy. And there are still some things that I have not added. Kathy, when you look back at your career, your achievements, how satisfied are you?
I I'm very satisfied in that I enjoyed my experiences. As I told you before, I enjoyed competing for Jamaica. Um, I I had some really good teammates both at University of Tennessee and on the Jamaican teams that um, made competing a little less scary than it could have been, or a little less difficult than it could have been. Um, but I always felt that I needed one more chance because I wanted to get an individual medal in one of the major competitions. So I felt like, I needed one more chance to do that. And if I had to do that over again, that is what I want. So most of my medals in the major competitions were on relays, but I would have wanted that individual medal.
I can
So
see that.
yeah.
When I was doing my research, I came across something. 800-meter, Kathy? Tell me about that. Tell me
So
about running the 800.
at University of Tennessee, I was on every relay. I was on the 4x1 relay or the sprint relay. That's why pen relays was so wonderful because I was on so many relays. So from I was in high school, I would run on the 4x18. So it was just natural that I would try the 800. And it was good background work for the 400. So it really got me in shape for the 400. But training for the 800 is very, very, very
Kathy,
difficult.
you did not only train for the 800, you're CAC silver medalist 1987 and 1991. That's a big deal.
But I wasn't training for the 800. I was training for the 400. In fact, Mr. Mills was surprised. He was like, I didn't know that you could run the 800 like that. So, but I was training for the 400 though.
Outstanding. That's all I can say. Outstanding. On the live, everybody is congratulating you. Ruth is congratulating you. Marlene Green, Ethelyn, Vivine, Dorothy. They're all saying congratulations to you on your achievement. Dorothy is saying Herb opened so many doors for Jamaican track and field athletes. Rest in peace, Uncle Herbie. She's right because I've heard so many athletes talk about this great man.
Oh, definitely. There's not enough I can say about Mr. McKinley. As I said before, we needed him on the team because we needed him. He was a little bit of motivation. He was the person that understood what we were going through because he had been through it. And I think it's so important. I'm not sure what they do on the teams nowadays, but I think it's important to have people like Mr. Herb McKinley there, somebody who understands what the athletes are going through. Because even though you could have the best intentions, if you haven't experienced it, and also from the eyes of the athletes looking on, we know that you have not been there. So, you're telling us these things, but we know that you haven't done it. So, we take it with a grain of salt. So
You're answering a question that I have coming up. You literally just answer, because I was going to ask you how important it is for our retired athletes, the people who have done it, to be a part of the current system. But we're going to come back to it a little bit more. Your legacy is rich, rich, outstanding, rich. But one question: how do you feel that Girls Champs is not a part of your legacy? Any regrets?
No, not really, because it
Okay.
when I watch it, it just looks so stressful. It just looks so stressful, and sometimes I think, oh my goodness, they're working these athletes too hard. It's
Yeah.
just too much, and it is because a lot of them, the stars of girls and boys champs, don't necessarily end up being the stars internationally, the ones representing us, because
Yeah.
we work them so hard and then work them into the ground.
Yeah.
They don't have time for anything else. You have to remember these are young people. You work them into the ground, they don't have a chance to live, and they
Hold
can.
that thought. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. I have it to ask you next. Hold that thought, Kathy. We're going to come back to it. Challenges. In everything in life, there are challenges. Tell me about some of your challenges while growing up throughout your career, college, the whole works as it relates to track and field. What were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, as I said before, the period where I moved back after college and I was living in Jamaica, um, Mr. Mills didn't come to coach me right away. So I was kind of lost for a little bit. And like I said, I was the only female that he was coaching. I don't think he was the most comfortable coaching me. So I got away with a lot. Like if I said, "Oh, Mr. Mills, I think my hand is hurting me today. I'm gonna," he'd be like, "Okay, all right, see what you can do." Um, so I struggled a little bit with that, and um, also also the venue for me to train. So this is something that always upset me, because they didn't want me to train at the stadium.
Why
They
not?
I don't know. They just, and I remember when the track was resurfaced, they locked the gates and they said that no one could use the track until Gibson Relays was held. It was being preserved or whatever for
But
Gibson Relays.
you're an Olympian.
And
By
I'm,
that time,
and I'm the only one in Jamaica who is
by
making the Jamaican team. So it was very
right.
upsetting to me. And so I used to climb over the gate. I climbed over the gate and I went in there to train because I was going to win.
People, are you hearing this? Look at Kathy now and tell
So
me if that sounds like something Kathy would do. Climb over the stadium gate.
if you want it bad enough, that's what you're going to do. I climbed over the gate because my competitors were not training on grass. They
Kathy,
were.
remember your father is watching. Your family is watching.
So I climbed over that stadium gate. They had a gate back in the days. I climbed over that. That was the gate to the track, and I climbed over that gate because I needed to train, and so that was how it is. But those years were very difficult, and as I said, kudos to Mr. Mills because he really worked with me, but the turnaround for me was actually Grace Jackson and Donald Quarry. And they decided, I don't know why, they were like, would you like to come and train with us in Los Angeles? Grace and I weren't really good friends. Donald and I weren't particularly good friends. I mean, we were on the same teams and we spoke to each other. And so Donald was coaching Grace at the time, and he invited me to come to Los Angeles and train with them. Mr. Mills had already done all the background work, so this was leading up to the beginning of the season, and so I ran my fastest times. My combination of Mr. Mills, who I said really got me in shape and ready with the background, and then Donald Quarry, who was able to get me um, sprint ready to run my 400 meters. And then I had, Grace as a partner training with, and oh my goodness. So
But Kathy, you have been conditioned by some outstanding people, Mr. Herb McKinley, Mr. Glenn Mills, Donald Quarry. You had it good.
I did. I think I did. And I am really grateful to all of those people. And I will always acknowledge they played a big role in my development. And those days training in Los Angeles, I mean, training was hard because Donald did not play. I remember one time, Grace, leading up to, I think it was the Seoul Olympics, Grace and I decided, we're going to the Olympics, we're going to get our nails done. Oh my goodness. We were late for practice. Well, certainly let us have it. But we would spend almost the whole day training. But it was a wonderful, it was a good experience. I mean, we worked hard, and and we saw the reward. So, it was very good.
Beautiful. Looking back at your career, would you have done anything differently?
Um, I don't know what I would have. I don't know what I would have done differently. Sometimes you think about it, and maybe most of the things that I would have done differently is within yourself, like within your mindset, and that's something that I think non-athletes don't realize, that the strength and the training and all of that is only half of what can get you where you're going. But your mindset and mentally, the way you think, the way you prepare yourself mentally for your races, that plays an even bigger role. And so sometimes you will see athletes who you think are strong and fast and whatever, and you expect them to win. But somebody else who maybe has a better mindset, maybe more confidence, um, will come out the winner.
I've heard that sport is 90% mental.
Oh yeah, yes, that's what I've heard as well. And I can definitely attest to the fact that the mental thing. But you see, as you get older, you think about these things. And now that I'm old, I can go back and say, I should have been more confident, or I should have done this, or I should have thought this way. As I said before, even as a teenager, I didn't think that I could make an Olympic team. And so this is why we need people like Herb McKinley, and we need people like Donald Quarry, that is helping athletes, that has been there, that understands. I think the first race I went out internationally and ran under Donald, um, I didn't do that well. And whereas Mr. Mills would say, "Oh dear, you never ran so well," Mr. Donald was just like, "That was terrible. We're not doing that again. You cannot do this." Somebody who you are better than this. You. So we need things like that, and that helps us, how we condition our minds. So if I had to do anything differently, maybe I would have a sports psychologist or somebody like that work with me, on that mental strength.
Wow, interesting. Before we get to the next section, Dorothy says, Kathy Lilith wants me to say hi. She's having some technical issues, so she won't be able to join us. Oh, wow.
All my
Uh,
1980 teammates are here.
yes, they're here. Your teammates from the 1980. Dorothy's here. Ethlyn is here. Ruth is here. Vilma is, wow. They're all out. Vivian is here. They're all here. Good stuff. Now, let us talk a little bit about track and field Jamaica. The Jamaican athletes continue to do great things. Of course, you have been a part of that. You have done your part. We've had 5 Olympics games since the 21st century, and Jamaica on the women's side have dominated the sprints. winning 4 of the 100 meter out of 5 and 4 of the 200 meter. One of the smallest population, I would say, at the Olympic Games doing this well. Your thoughts on what we are doing and this accomplishment, that Jamaica can say it is ours. What are your thoughts?
You know, I realized that success breeds success. So when our younger athletes are looking up and seeing things that the other athletes are doing, like Marilyn Otti and Juliet and Grace, those athletes look up to the other athletes, and so I think the more we do well, the more our women go out there and do well, the more the other younger ones realize that I can do this too. So for me, running the 400 for Jamaica, I did not have a whole lot of other people to look up that had done this before. So I think that really helps, and I think also um, the athletes staying in Jamaica and training. I think that really makes a big difference as well. And I have kudos to Stephen Francis, because I think that he really, really put Jamaica in a good position with the athletes, and he has really had much success, especially with the female athletes.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
I think that is a big part of our success.
When you look at the junior athletes who are speedily emerging, it's like we have a factory in Jamaica. How do you think we can support them and preserve them so that they're able to transition to the next level? How can
Well,
we help them?
I think, if we continue to have the boys and girls championships, because that's how we can identify the athletes. But they really do need support, because a lot of the times, when they train with their high school coaches and the season ends, then they're just kind of left, and only the ones who decide, well, I'm going to continue, because the coaches are not being paid to coach them afterwards. So I think uh, we really need to encourage our clubs to invest in the younger athletes more. We have a lot of clubs, but
Mhm.
not all of them are really looking at the younger athletes. So I think that's a system that we need to be able to put in place, so that we can harness the young athletes and do it in a good way, because we don't want them to get injured. We want them to understand their bodies and understand how to take care of their bodies and how to train properly. So for me, I think the clubs need to come on board and need to support the junior athletes, because it's very hard for the J3s or any national association to pick up on that. We have athletes all over the place. It's too hard. It's too difficult to put together a training camp for the whole summer for all the athletes that I think are going to make teams. You never know. So I think we need to invest more in the clubs, and it's something that they do in some of the other more developed countries.
What you think about? I have this idea about a track and field academy. Do you think that could work? That's something that's workable?
Well, as I'm saying before, it's really hard to put everybody under one umbrella and with one coach. And I think the J3s in the past were able to have some very successful camps, but it's really very difficult to sustain, and a lot of work to try to get all these athletes from different places and support them. So if not just one academy, but we would need several throughout the country, and in that way also then you can have competitions as well, and that's part of the thing that, for the juniors, after the boys and girls champs, which is early in the track and field season, they need competition as well. So
Hmm.
if they're in different clubs, then that can be very, very helpful as well.
Earlier, you were talking about mentorship and stuff, and I stopped you because I wanted us to pick it up here. Based on your experience, how important do you think sports psychology is, especially now?
Oh, it definitely is important, and even more so now because of things like social media.
Mm-hmm.
And athletes, you run a race, and before you can even talk about it with your coach, everybody online is talking about it.
Yeah. Yes.
So it definitely is something that's very important. And as I said before, how you feel mentally
Mm-hmm.
is very important for your race. It's very important. It's very important to learn how to visualize your race. And I think almost any athlete that has been successful that you speak to will tell you that how much mental work goes into their races.
How were you able to prepare yourself mentally? Because a coach can say to you, don't worry about your competition, you will do well. And you said, okay, coach, yes, you're the favorite, yet you go in the race and you underperform.
Well, remember, this is why I said to you, if I would do anything differently, it would
Yeah.
be about my mental thing,
Yeah.
my whole way I saw the races. And so this was the difference for me between Mr. Mills and Donald, because Mr. Donald was able to speak to me differently, to motivate me differently, to talk me through my race differently than Mr. Mills was. Now, I'm not saying Mr. Mills can't do it, but I think he was more comfortable doing it
Mhm.
with the male athletes than he was with me as a female athlete. And
He
that's
didn't
just
want to shout. He did not want to shout at you
right. I don't think he
and say,
spoke to me
Kathy, you need to get it together, Kathy.
right. I don't think he spoke to me the way he would speak to his boys, or
Yes.
get into it the same way. And so that is a very important part of it. And if you look back in history at some of the really great athletes, not just Jamaican athletes, but people like Jackie Joyner, they were very close to their coaches. They
Mm-hmm.
were
Mm-hmm.
very close to their coaches, because you have to have this close relationship, because they have to be a part of you. So that whole mental thing, that a coach has to be able to reach you, and they have to know your athlete and know how you think to approach you, because there's some athletes the coach can cut them off, and then brush it off and come back the next day and ready. But then there may be somebody else that will be
Yeah.
caught by it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that you find the right coach, and
The
that
right fit.
closeness and relationship is extremely important.
The
Uh,
right fit
and
is very
I think even more so for women than it is for men.
The right fit is very important. You touched on something earlier that I've been calling for a while now. Using the retired athletes to be a part of the current system, as in look for the talents or the personalities that can motivate and encourage. Because I saw an interview with an athlete, I think it was sometime last year, and she was running in the hurdles. And she said her idol was in that same race. And she was saying to herself, please let her come over and tell me that it will be okay, that I'll do a good job. And so sometimes the athletes, want that from the retired athletes, but because you guys are not really a part of the system, so how important do you think that is to collaborate with you guys in
I mean,
order
I
to,
I I do think it's important, but I'm biased because I would like to be more involved, and
which
I
you
don't
should be.
I don't really I don't really know how which route to take for that involvement, and our female athletes especially are doing very well, so maybe they're saying they don't really need to have um, other mentors because they are already successful.
But what's funny is that the interview was a female athlete who have done it. She has won gold at the Olympics, gold at the World Championship. But she said it in an interview that she would have loved her countrywoman who also won gold at the Olympics to say something encouraging to her, because she was a youngster just coming, and she would have loved that. So I think there's the need for it. America does it.
Oh,
You know.
America does a very wonderful job. They even have a whole alumni association for track and field,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where they attend all the major championships,
Yes.
and we are there to.
Yes.
I guess I mean I don't know if it is that Jamaica can't afford it. I'm not sure exactly why. They do try to involve some of us, but not at the level that I would like to see it. And I think there's so many um, former athletes who would love to get involved like me,
Mm-hmm.
but don't really see that pathway. And until the powers that be see it the same way, then there's really no pathway for us.
Is it something that can be done independently of the federation?
I think that's the way it's going to have to go,
Yeah.
but it's very difficult because to reach the athletes, you have to have some collaboration with the J3As. So I think other groups have tried. So besides just supporting them, uh, financially giving donations, contributing, the whole idea of mentorship is has not really been given any focus at all.
I think it is. I think it is needed, because I remember, and I can tell this story. I remember Aileen telling me that the 2004 Olympic Games, even though Marlene was competing for another country, she came to their dorm or village, and she was encouraging them. And Aileen said that helped her, so there is the need for it. And even though our athletes are not saying, oh, I would love for this athlete to be my mentor, maybe if we bring it to them, then they will embrace it.
I think we can, and I know that um, there are there are some athletes out there, some retired athletes out there who are trying to take that path, whether it's mentorship entirely or just
Hmm.
financial support, helping them because that's also a very very big part. Um, but I think something is going to change in the next couple of years. But it's still my hope that through the J3A that they will recognize that
Yes.
former athletes do have a role to play and
Hmm.
should be embraced. Not to say that there are no former athletes involved,
Hmm.
but um, I think we see them as tokens and saying that okay, we do have some there. I would certainly like to see more involvement,
Me too.
especially more involvement with the athletes.
Yes. Yes.
Not necessarily in the running of the association or in the management of the association, but definitely um, something for the athletes. And even these athletes running now, they're going to be former athletes one day, and
Indeed.
it's important that they get the support, because the truth is that you give your best years, your youth, and then you have to go out in the world and fight for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
they need support that way as well. Our former athletes, you look up to them and you cheer for them, and they're so wonderful when they're
Yes.
running, and then they stop running and we forget. And they have given these years their youth, running
Mm-hmm.
for Jamaica, making Jamaica proud, and then what's going to happen to them? So, there's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be done.
I'm happy you said that. I've been saying that for a while now. I'm happy you said that. The Olympic Games is coming up. Track and field will be from August 1st to August 11th. What are you looking forward to from Team Jamaica?
Well, as usual, I'm looking for my women to bring home those medals. I'm very excited. I'm very
Yes.
excited about the Olympics, and I think that um, the women are the exciting part for me, because I understand what they have to go through, and it's even more difficult because when I look at say Shelly Ann Fraser Price,
Wow.
and compared to Usain Bolt. When Usain was running, it was Usain, and even though Shelley was doing well, it was Usain. So it's more difficult for the women. So I'm excited about what our women are doing, and I'm excited about the games already.
Likewise, likewise. Kathy, is there anything that I did not touch on that you want to share with us? And then we're going to get into a little exciting game.
Oh dear.
Yes.
I think we covered it all.
Wow. I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did. All right. Let's jump into this little game now. It's like, I love this segment because after an intense training, we're now warming down. So, my first question to you is, what is your nickname? I know you have a nickname, even though you grew up abroad, you went to high school abroad. I know there's a nickname. What is your nickname?
I don't know. I don't know anything. It must have been
Where
a
is
nickname that they called behind my back.
Where is Ruth? Where is Olympian
Yes.
Ruth to give us
What is it,
that
Ruth?
name? No nickname? You don't have a nickname? There's
Not
no
that I
Jamaican. There's no Jamaican without a nickname, Kathy.
not that I know of. Not
Okay,
that they
all right.
call me to my face.
Okay, all righty, all right. So you don't have any. Okay, fine. Can you recall how many countries you've competed in?
Oh my goodness. No. A
Okay.
lot.
Just
A
name a
lot.
few. Just name a few.
Venezuela, Puerto Rico, England, Spain, Seoul, Japan,
Wow. You were traveling?
Dominican Republic, um, a host of countries in Europe, France,
You were traveling.
Switzerland. It's too many for me to even
Great, great,
think
great.
about.
Girl, your legacy is up. If your life story was to be captured in a movie, who would you want to play the younger you and the mature you?
My goodness. I have never thought
Hold that thought.
of
Ruth is here. Oh, Ruth is saying it wasn't a nickname. Okay. I got so excited and it wasn't a nickname. Okay, go ahead. Who would you
oh,
want to
you mean it was a
play?
name that is covered behind my back.
No, she said it wasn't a nickname, so I thought it was. I got excited over the nickname. If your life was to be captured in a movie, your journey, your track and field journey, who would you want to play the younger you and the mature you?
I've never thought of that. I have no idea.
No idea?
I have no idea
You don't
who.
know who you want to play you?
No,
With your
I
skinny
never thought
legs,
that
with
I
your
would be.
maga legs?
I would never think who would want to that I would be in a movie. A movie would be made of my life. So I
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Off the top of your head, just a quick prediction. Predict 4 events that Jamaica can win gold in Paris. 4 events that you think we can win gold in.
I definitely think that we can win gold in the women's 100 meters, the women's 200 meters, um, the women's hurdles, and even the women's 400, you know.
There you go. I'm disappointed you did not say the 4x1, but that's
Well, I wasn't
okay.
thinking of relays, I was thinking of
Oh,
individual.
individual. Okay. So you're
But I
saying
mean, we could win gold medals in both the relays.
the women 1, 2 hurdles and 4. Okay. All right. Okay. Next. When did you not when what did you love most about being an athlete? What is the one thing that you love the most about being an athlete?
Well, I love competing. I love
Okay.
competing. I mean, we
Okay.
live for the competition. You train hard because the competition. It's
Name one
so
athlete.
exciting.
Name one athlete that made you nervous when you line up in a race with them. You must have one, Kathy.
Yes, all those Soviet athletes that we knew must have been doing something.
Kathy, behave yourself. Kathy, behavior.
When you lined up, can I tell you about Harmila Krachikalova?
Yes, man.
Okay.
Tell me.
Do you remember um, her? She has the world record in the 800
Mm-hmm.
meters. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would just take one look at her and I was like, well, I don't even need to be in this race. I mean, those
Kathy,
athletes
you are savage.
were, no, I mean, no. When I even now, I think a couple of years ago, I looked back at one of her races, and I mean, she was just like a machine. So I mean, it was difficult. I think the first two world championships that I competed in, those athletes from those Western Bloc countries, you
Yeah.
wouldn't even think about
Because the
400.
400-meter record still stands. And it belongs to that part.
Yes, it was it
Mm-hmm.
was it was very it was very intimidating. So
Yeah.
yes, when you lined up in a race like with them, it was like,
Which
what am I
Jamaican made
doing?
you nervous?
Which one?
Which Jamaican that you line up with made you nervous?
I don't know. I wouldn't say any of them really made me nervous.
What? You're a
No.
star.
And then
Okay.
maybe my first year or two, I I think Jackie Pusey won the 400.
That's the name I was listening to here, Jackie.
Right. But then
Mhm.
I didn't really know what was going on then. So, I wasn't really nervous. But then maybe the 5 or 6 years after that, I won the national championships fairly easily, I would say, until Sandy Richards came along. And then Sandy and I were such good friends that.
Sandy. Before we go any further, Lilith is saying, I think the women should be able to win the 4x1. Okay, the 4x1 relay if they work together. Sandy British, welcome. Welcome each and every one. Okay, my next question is if your coach wanted you to switch event from the 4 or the 800-meter, which other track event would you have chosen?
Oh, I would.
If the coach had said, "No, I think you can do this event."
No,
Which
I would
event would you choose?
definitely choose the 100 or the 200. 400 training is way too hard. I used to laugh at all those people who were like, oh, why are you saying no, run the 400? Because it's hard. It's
It's
really
hard.
hard. Yes,
Yeah,
the
I've
training is
heard that.
hard. I always used to envy Lilith because she only run the 100. 400 training is hard.
But
Very hard.
400 runners make it look so
Yeah,
easy. When I look at Antonio Watson last year, I mean, he made it look so easy, even coming on the straightaway. Because I don't know how many people remember this, but Antonio Watson was like at fifth. He was in fifth place, and the commentator keep talking about the person from Great Britain and the US, not realizing that Antonio Watson was tracking, and he made it look so easy.
yeah. I mean, competition. You're motivated and you're psyched and you're ready to go in the competition. It's the training that's hard.
That's
It's
the
not
wicked
the day
part.
that you run it on the day that you run it that it's hard. It's the training for it that's hard. And you know, the 100 training is not as hard.
Which
I mean,
leg of the relay?
they do work hard. I don't want to diminish it. They do work hard,
Mm-hmm.
but whereas we have to run 400 meters in training, the 100
Wow,
athletes are not running that.
that's tough, man.
It is very
Woo.
hard. There are days when I would train at the stadium, and after I finished training, I had to wait like half an hour or so because I am too weak to turn the steering wheel and to put my foot on the gas. It's hard.
Wow. Wow. Which leg of the relay is your favorite? Which is your preferred leg?
Well, in college, I always ran the first leg of the 4x4, and
Okay.
that's my preferred one.
If you were to coach one Jamaican athlete, which athlete would that be and why?
I would like to train Asafa Powell
Why?
because I feel that he and I were very similar in the way that we thought, and maybe I could help him with that.
Okay. Very interesting that you said that. Very interesting. Thank you for that. If you are invited to select a retired Jamaican 4x4 team with you on it, who would be your teammates and how would you set up that relay? You're invited to the Paris Olympics now to run a 4x4. Every country, 8 countries, Jamaica is one. And you, Kathy, you're to select the team with yourself. Who would your teammates be and how would you set up that relay?
Oh my goodness. With retired athletes,
Mm-hmm.
not athletes in my era,
No,
just
it doesn't matter when. They
athletes.
could, even if they're retired recently, it doesn't matter. But you need to pick a winning team. You need a winning team now because there's big money on this race. 100,000 US dollars for the winner.
Um, I don't even know where to start. Um,
I'm sure you know exactly where to start.
okay.
You're one.
Well, yes, and
Yeah.
I would want to run the lead off leg.
Oh, you would run the lead off leg. Okay.
I would want
Who would you hand the baton to?
to run.
Okay, Ethelyn said she will help you. Go ahead, Ethelyn. Who would you put on Kathy's team? Go ahead, Kathy. 4x4. Ethelyn says Sandy Richards.
I think I would put Sandy on the third. I don't know who that team would be.
Yeah, you don't know who that team would be. Okay, go
I
ahead,
don't know who that
Ethelyn.
team would
Ethelyn,
be.
okay, Ethelyn said Sandy Richards, Andrea Thomas. One more name, Ethelyn. One more name. Ethelyn is giving us one more name. Kathy, not sure who her teammates would
I'm not
be.
sure who, like of all the former athletes, I'm not sure who those teammates would be.
Sandy British is saying she would put Noveline Williams Mills. That's a good pick also. That is a good pick. All right, next one now, Kathy. If you are to select a Jamaican retired mixed relay, two men, two women, who would your teammates be?
For what? For the
For
a
the
four by
Olympics,
four?
yeah, another 4x4, a special race, 100,000 US again. So guess what? You're walking away with 200,000 US dollars. Who would your teammates be? Two men, two women. You would be one of the women.
I think for the two women, myself and Novleen,
Okay, and the two
I
men.
the two men would be um, Bert Cameron
Good pick.
and um, Gregory Horton.
Gregory Horton. Okay, that's a good team. That is a good team. That's a good team. That is a good team. Okay. If one of your teammates in the field got hurt just before the event and the official said anybody from the team can do the event, and the team manager said, Kathy, you are going to do the field event, which field event would you select and why? This one is funny.
A field event that I
A
had
field
to.
event, yes.
Oh, the
So
long.
what you would do the long jump. Okay, okay.
Yes.
You
I
did
did
it
the long
before?
jump in high school.
Oh, you did. Okay, okay, okay. Okay,
I'm the
good.
Maryland state champion.
Oh, wow. Go girl. What is your favorite Olympic moment for Jamaica from 1948 to 2020, 2021?
For
What is
Jamaica,
the 100 meter? From Jamaica, yes. Your favorite Olympic moment for Jamaica.
oh,
Just name.
it's when our women took first, second, and third.
Okay. Which of them? The 1-2-2 or the 1-2-3? There's two of them we have, two clean
The
sweep.
one, the 1-2-2.
Yes, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. Okay, winding down now. We have athletes with a dream, a passion, but they're struggling because of the lack of resources. I want you to take 1 minute to encourage them.
They're struggling because of
The
resources.
lack of resources, yes. But they have a dream and they have this passion to do track and field, but they do not have the resources. What would you tell them?
Well, as I said, the way you think about things change your thinking and change your life. And even though you do not have all the resources right now, you must continue to work towards meeting whatever goals that you have. Um, don't be afraid to reach out to people to ask for help, because you'd be surprised how many people there are out there that are willing to help. They just don't know that you need the help. So you can never give up. You have to be determined. You have to be strong. And as I said, you have to reach out for help if you do need it, because people won't know that you need that help. Um, yeah, that's my
Indeed.
advice.
Indeed, indeed. Kathy Rattray Samuels, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story and thank you for being a part of the show. And before we go, I just want to give you 30 seconds to close.
Well, Heather, thank you for having me on your show. I think that this is wonderful, that thing that you're doing for the Olympians. Um, as I said earlier, I always enjoyed competing for Jamaica. I'm a competitor and I liked competing and I liked being on the Jamaican team. And it's made even more special because Jamaicans are just so they're really into track and field. And living in Jamaica up to a few years ago, people would still recognize me and remember my efforts on the track and thank me for competing for Jamaica and representing Jamaica, and that is the most wonderful feeling. As I said before, I've always wished that I had won an individual medal at a major championships, but when I am remembered the way that I am by my fellow Jamaicans, it is a wonderful feeling. And um, I'm just grateful for the opportunities that I was given. I was grateful that I had so many wonderful coaches and people that supported me along the way, because this is a journey that you cannot do by yourself, that you
Indeed.
need, re, really need help. And I am appealing to all Jamaicans to continue to support our athletes, even in the smallest way. Just showing up to the track meets and supporting them and cheering for them, it goes a very, very long way. We may not be able to hear your individual voices, but we do appreciate the support. Yes.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And personally, I am going to thank you for your contribution to our rich legacy in track and field. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for being here. Join me next week when we will have sports psychologist Dr. Jason Scott Hamilton in the house. And I'm sure Kathy knows that name, Dr. Jason Scott Hamilton. He will be here next week telling us about the mental, as Kathy keeps saying, that mental state is very, very important. Thank you all for being here. Thank you wherever you're watching from. Good night. Have a good night. And thank you very much. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you very much.